Have you ever wondered why some people seem to accumulate wealth effortlessly, while others work just as hard, sometimes even harder, yet remain trapped in an endless cycle of financial struggle? The answer might be more uncomfortable than you think, and it has nothing to do with how much money you earn. In fact, what I'm about to share with you today could completely change the way you think about money, spending, and building real, lasting wealth. Charlie Munger, the legendary investor and Warren Buffett's right-hand man, spent decades studying the patterns of wealth creation and financial destruction. What he discovered was both simple and devastating. Most people aren't broke because they don't make enough money. They're broke because they consistently make purchasing decisions that drain their wealth instead of building it. Has this ever happened to you? You get a raise, you feel that surge of financial relief, yet somehow, by the end of the month, you're in the exact same position you were before, or worse. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Munger identified a fundamental principle that separates those who build generational wealth from those who remain financially stagnant their entire lives. It's not about luck, inheritance, or even intelligence. It's about understanding one critical distinction: the difference between assets and liabilities. Rich people buy assets, things that put money in their pockets. Poor people buy liabilities and convince themselves they're making smart investments. They confuse consumption with wealth building, and that confusion costs them everything. What you're about to discover might surprise you, because this isn't another lecture about cutting out your morning coffee or never enjoying a meal at a restaurant. I'm not here to tell you to live like a monk or deprive yourself of every small pleasure in life. That's not what this is about. What we're talking about today is something far more significant: 5 specific categories of purchases that are silently destroying your financial future. These aren't small indulgences. These are major financial decisions that millions of people make every single day, believing they're making the responsible choice, when in reality, they're digging themselves deeper into a hole they may never climb out of. Stay with me until the end, because what I'm going to reveal will challenge everything you've been taught about money, success, and what it truly means to build wealth. These 5 financial destroyers are so deeply ingrained in our culture that most people don't even recognize them as problems. In fact, society actively encourages these behaviors, celebrates them even, while the wealthy quietly do the exact opposite. So what are these 5 things? And more importantly, why do they have such a devastating impact on your ability to build real wealth? Let's dive into the first one. And I promise you, the first destroyer of wealth is something that nearly everyone falls for, and it starts with a decision that feels exciting, responsible, even like a milestone of success. I'm talking about buying a brand new car. Now, before you dismiss this as just another financial guru telling you what you can't have, let me show you the hidden truth behind this decision. The mathematics that dealerships hope you never calculate. The impact that this single choice has on your entire financial journey. Here's what happens the moment you sign those papers and drive that shiny new vehicle off the lot. 20 to 30% of its value vanishes into thin air, gone, evaporated. You haven't even made it home yet, and you've already lost thousands of dollars. This isn't an opinion or a theory. This is cold, hard depreciation. Within the first year, that brand new car loses another chunk of its value, bringing the total loss to around 30%. By year 3, you've lost half of what you paid. Think about that for a moment, half. You're not purchasing transportation or investing in reliability. You're buying depreciation wrapped in sheet metal, and you're paying premium prices for the privilege. But the real devastation happens when you Finance this purchase, which most people do. You're taking out a loan at 5, 6, sometimes 7% interest to buy something that's losing value faster than ice melts on a summer sidewalk. You're paying interest on an asset that's depreciating. Every single month, you're sending money to the bank for something that's worth less than it was the month before. This is the kind of decision that creates a fundamental shift in your financial trajectory and not in the direction you want to go. What Charlie Munger understood, what every wealthy person understands, is that this decision represents something much deeper than just buying a car. It represents a mindset, the mindset of consumption versus accumulation. When you choose to let someone else absorb that initial depreciation hit by buying a 3-year-old certified pre-owned vehicle, you're making a decision that wealthy people make. You're getting reliable transportation, often still under warranty, for literally half the price. That's not sacrifice. That's strategic thinking. That's understanding that every dollar you save on depreciation is a dollar that can compound in your investment accounts, earning dividends, growing wealth, building your future. If this content resonated with you and you want more straight talk about building real wealth, hit that subscribe button. We're creating a community of people who are done making excuses and ready to make actual progress with their finances. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because the car is just the beginning of these wealth destroyers, and understanding the pattern behind these decisions is what creates real transformation in your financial life. Write in the comments, "I choose assets over liabilities," if this perspective is starting to shift something in how you think about money. What makes this car decision even more devastating is when people add another layer of financial destruction on top of it through leasing. This is where the hidden truth becomes almost painful to acknowledge, because leasing has been marketed to us as sophisticated, as the smart choice for people who want to stay current with the latest models. But let me reveal what's actually happening behind the scenes of a lease agreement. You're essentially renting a depreciating asset, which means you're paying someone else monthly for the privilege of driving their car while it loses value. At the end of that lease period, 3 years, 4 years, whatever, you walk away with absolutely nothing. Zero equity, zero ownership. You've transferred thousands of dollars from your bank account to the dealership, and you have nothing to show for it except the memories of driving a car you never owned. This is the ultimate revelation about wealth destruction versus wealth building. The dealership owner gets richer with every lease payment you make, while you remain exactly where you started, except now you need another car and the cycle begins. Again, it's a treadmill that keeps you running but never getting anywhere, and the truly shocking part is how many people accept this as normal, as just the way things are done. They've internalized the marketing, the messaging, the cultural narrative that tells them this is acceptable. The transformation in your financial journey begins when you recognize that there's a completely different path available to you, one that wealthy people have been walking for decades while everyone else chases status symbols. When you make the decision to buy a 3-year-old certified pre-owned vehicle instead, you're letting someone else absorb that brutal depreciation hit. You're getting reliable transportation that's still under warranty in most cases, and you're paying half, literally half, of what the original buyer paid. This isn't about driving a worse car. This is about making a strategic decision that preserves your capital so it can work for you instead of evaporating into thin air. The impact of this single choice ripples through your entire financial life in ways most people never calculate. Every month that you're not making an inflated car payment on a brand new vehicle, you have money that can be redirected toward investments that actually grow in value. Think about what compounds over time, not the debt, not the interest payments, but actual wealth. This is the mindset shift that separates people who look successful from people who are actually building real financial freedom. Because here's something that nobody talks about openly. The wealthiest people you know probably aren't driving the newest cars. They understand that true wealth whispers while poverty shouts, and nothing shouts quite as loudly as someone desperate to prove their success through material possessions that drain their bank account every single month. Write in the comments, wealth over status, if you're ready to start making decisions that actually build your future instead of just looking good in the present moment, because what comes next is going to challenge everything you think you know about home ownership and the so-called American dream. The second wealth destroyer is something even more insidious than the car trap, and it's wrapped in one of the most sacred beliefs of our culture. We've been taught for generations that buying a home is the pinnacle of financial responsibility, that it's your biggest asset, that it's the foundation of building wealth. But what if I told you that this entire narrative is backwards, that what you think is your greatest asset is actually your greatest liability? This revelation challenges everything most people hold dear about financial success. And it's exactly why so many hard-working individuals remain trapped in a cycle they can't escape. Here's the hidden truth that real estate agents, banks, and mortgage companies don't want you to understand clearly. An asset puts money into your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. Your home, the one you live in, takes money out of your pocket every single month. Mortgage payments, property taxes, homeowners insurance, maintenance costs, utility bills, landscaping, unexpected repairs. It's a constant drain on your cash flow, and the bigger the house, the bigger the drain. But we've been conditioned to ignore this reality because we've confused the concept of equity with actual wealth creation. The transformation in thinking happens when you recognize that even if your home increases in value over time, you can't access that equity without either selling the place where you live or taking out another loan against it, which is just adding more debt to your life. And here's where the opportunity cost becomes absolutely devastating. When people stretch themselves to buy the biggest house the bank will approve them for, they're making a critical error in judgment. The bank isn't your financial advisor looking out for your best interests. The bank is a business that profits when you're in maximum debt for maximum time. They want you locked into a 30-year mortgage because that means 30 years of interest payments flowing into their accounts. Let me show you what this actually looks like behind the scenes. If the bank approves you for a $500,000 mortgage and you take that full amount, you're not actually paying $500,000 for that house. When you factor in 30 years of interest, you're paying somewhere around $800,000 or more. You're transferring $300,000 of your future earnings directly to the bank just for the privilege of borrowing their money. That's not building wealth. That's funding someone else's wealth while you work for decades to pay off a debt that could have been half the size if you'd made a different decision at the beginning of this journey. The impact of this single choice determines whether you'll spend your life working to maintain your lifestyle or whether you'll actually build financial freedom. Write in the comments, freedom over appearances, if you're starting to see how these decisions shape everything, because what I'm about to share about the third wealth destroyer will completely change how you think about your daily habits and the small choices that add up to massive consequences over time. The revelation about real estate goes even deeper when you examine the mythology we've all been fed about property values. Always going up. This is perhaps the most dangerous assumption in personal finance, and it's one that devastated millions of families during the housing crisis. Think back to 2007, when people were buying homes at inflated prices, convinced they were making the investment of a lifetime. They believed the narrative that real estate only goes in one direction. Then the market collapsed, and suddenly those homes were worth half of what people paid for them. Families found themselves underwater on their mortgages, owing more than their properties were worth, trapped in a nightmare they never saw coming because they trusted the myth instead of understanding the reality. But even when real estate does appreciate in value, there's a hidden truth that nobody talks about in those glossy home-buying commercials. That equity sitting in your home isn't actually accessible wealth unless you're willing to sell the place where you live and downsize, or unless you take out another loan against it, which just means piling more debt onto your existing debt. This is where the mindset shift becomes crucial, where you start to see that debt isn't inherently good or bad. It's a tool, and like any tool, it creates completely different outcomes depending on how you use it. When wealthy people leverage debt to acquire income-producing assets like dividend-paying stocks or to build businesses that generate cash flow, that's strategic debt. That's using borrowed money to create more money to multiply your wealth. But when you borrow money to buy a house that's bigger than you need, with rooms you never use and a mortgage payment that consumes half your monthly income, that's destructive debt. You're leveraging yourself into a liability, not an asset, and the impact on your financial future is catastrophic. Here's the transformation that changes everything. Instead of buying the maximum house the bank approves you for, what if you bought half that amount? If they approve you for $500,000, you buy a $250,000 home. I don't care if it's smaller, if it doesn't have the granite countertops or the walk-in closets that your friends have. You buy the house you actually need, not the house that impresses people who don't matter. Then you take all that money you're saving every single month, the difference between that inflated mortgage payment and your actual payment, and you invest it. You put it into index funds, into dividend-paying stocks, into assets that actually grow wealth instead of consuming it. This is the journey that separates people who spend their entire lives working to maintain their lifestyle from people who build real financial independence. Write in the comments, "I choose financial freedom," if this perspective is shifting how you see these major life decisions, because what we're about to explore next is something that happens every single day, multiple times a day, and it's bleeding your wealth dry in ways you probably haven't even calculated yet. The third wealth destroyer is something that happens so frequently, so casually, that most people don't even register it as a financial decision anymore. It's become automatic, woven into the fabric of daily life, and that's exactly what makes it so dangerous. I'm talking about eating out, restaurants, coffee shops, takeout apps, delivery services. These small decisions that feel insignificant in the moment are actually creating a massive impact on your ability to build wealth. And the hidden truth behind the numbers is staggering. Let me show you what's really happening behind the scenes of your daily routine. The average person spends over $3,000 a year eating out. $3,000. Now that might not sound catastrophic when you break it down into individual purchases, a coffee here, lunch there, dinner because you're too tired to cook. But here's the revelation that changes everything. If you took that same $3,000 and invested it every single year for 30 years at a 10% return, you'd have over $500,000. $500,000. You're literally trading $500,000 in retirement wealth for meals and drinks that you'll forget about within 24 hours. But the reality is even more devastating than that, because most people aren't spending just $3,000. They're spending $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 or more when you actually track every transaction. Morning coffee on the way to work, lunch because you didn't pack anything, dinner because cooking feels like too much effort after a long day, weekend brunches, date nights, those late-night food delivery orders. It compounds faster than you realize, and every single dollar that goes toward temporary satisfaction is a dollar that's not working for you in the market, not earning dividends, not building your future. This is where the mindset transformation becomes critical. People tell themselves they don't have money to invest, that they're living paycheck to paycheck, that there's just nothing left at the end of the month. Then those same people spend $15 on a salad for lunch without thinking twice about it. The money exists. You have it. You're just choosing to spend it on things that disappear instead of things that grow. You're choosing convenience and instant gratification over long-term wealth accumulation. And that choice is determining whether you'll retire comfortably or whether you'll be working until your body gives out. Now, I'm not suggesting you never enjoy a meal at a restaurant or never grab coffee with friends. That's not what this journey toward financial freedom requires. What I'm saying is, be strategic about it. Cook at home most of the time. Meal prep on Sundays so you have options during the week. Pack your lunch, make your coffee at home. These aren't sacrifices. These are decisions that wealthy people make because they understand that every dollar saved is a dollar that can be invested, that can compound, that can work for them, instead of evaporating into nothing. Write in the comments, small choices, big impact, if you're recognizing how these daily decisions are shaping your financial destiny, because the fourth wealth destroyer reveals something even more pervasive about how consumer culture keeps you trapped in a cycle of spending that never ends. The fourth wealth destroyer cuts even deeper into the psychology of consumption, and it reveals something profound about how we've been programmed to constantly spend money on things we don't actually need. This is about clothing, accessories, and the endless cycle of updating your wardrobe that the fashion industry has convinced you is necessary for success, for confidence, for being taken seriously in the world. But the hidden truth behind this behavior is that you're filling your closet with regrets disguised as style choices. Think about your own closet right now. How many items are hanging there that you bought, wore once or twice, and then forgot about? How many pairs of shoes sit unused because they weren't as comfortable as you thought? How many accessories seemed essential in the store but now just take up space? Your closet isn't a collection of carefully curated fashion choices. It's a museum of impulse decisions that drained your bank account and gave you nothing of lasting value in return. Each one of those forgotten items represents money that could have been invested, money that could have been working for you, compounding, building actual wealth instead of gathering dust. Here's the revelation that the fashion industry desperately doesn't want you to understand. Nobody cares what you're wearing as much as you think they do. Nobody is keeping a mental inventory of whether you wore the same outfit twice this week. The people who might judge you based on your clothes are not people whose opinions should matter to you anyway. What actually impresses people who understand wealth? A substantial investment portfolio, a growing net worth, financial independence, not $1,000 handbag or limited edition sneakers that'll be irrelevant in 6 months. This goes far beyond just clothing, though. This is about the entire mentality of consumption that keeps you trapped on a hamster wheel of spending. We live in a culture that has been carefully engineered to make you feel like what you have isn't good enough. New phone every year, even though your current one works perfectly fine. New outfit for every occasion, even though your closet is already full. Upgrade, update, replace, repeat. The tech industry, the fashion industry, they've built trillion-dollar empires on making you feel inadequate, so you'll keep spending, and the impact on your financial future is absolutely devastating. The transformation happens when you recognize that wealthy people approach purchasing completely differently. They buy quality. The fourth wealth destroyer cuts even deeper into the psychology of consumption, and it reveals something profound about how we've been programmed to constantly spend money on things we don't actually need. This is about clothing, accessories, and the endless cycle of updating your wardrobe that the fashion industry has convinced you is necessary for success, for confidence, for being taken seriously in the world. But the hidden truth behind this behavior is that you're filling your closet with regrets disguised as style choices. Think about your own closet right now. How many items are hanging there that you bought, wore once or twice, and then forgot about? How many pairs of shoes sit unused because they weren't as comfortable as you thought? How many accessories seemed essential in the store, but now just take up space? Your closet isn't a collection of carefully curated fashion choices. It's a museum of impulse decisions that drained your bank account and gave you nothing of lasting value in return. Each one of those forgotten items represents money that could have been invested, money that could have been working for you, compounding, building actual wealth instead of gathering dust. Here's the revelation that the fashion industry desperately doesn't want you to understand. Nobody cares what you're wearing as much as you think they do. Nobody is keeping a mental inventory of whether you wore the same outfit twice this week. The people who might judge you based on your clothes are not people whose opinions should matter to you anyway. What actually impresses people who understand wealth? A substantial investment portfolio, a growing net worth, financial independence, not a $1,000 handbag or limited edition sneakers that'll be irrelevant in 6 months. This goes far beyond just clothing, though. This is about the entire mentality of consumption that keeps you trapped on a hamster wheel of spending. We live in a culture that has been carefully engineered to make you feel like what you have isn't good enough. New phone every year, even though your current one works perfectly fine. New outfit for every occasion, even though your closet is already full. Upgrade, update, replace, repeat. The tech industry, the fashion industry, they've built trillion-dollar empires on making you feel inadequate so you'll keep spending, and the impact on your financial future is absolutely devastating. The transformation happens when you recognize that wealthy people approach purchasing completely differently. They buy quality items that last, and they wear them until they actually wear out. They don't chase trends. They don't care about impressing strangers. They understand that their money has far better places to be than in some corporation's pocket, just because that corporation ran an effective marketing campaign. Your value as a person has nothing to do with what you wear, and everything to do with what you build, what you create, what you accumulate in terms of actual assets. Write in the comments, quality over quantity, if you're ready to break free from the consumption trap. Because the fifth and final wealth destroyer is perhaps the most insidious of all. It's the one that drains your account so quietly that most people don't even notice it happening until they sit down and actually calculate the damage. The fifth wealth destroyer operates in the shadows of your financial life, quietly siphoning money from your account month after month, and most people don't even realize it's happening until they actually sit down and examine their bank statements line by line. I'm talking about subscriptions and memberships you don't use, those recurring charges that seemed like a good idea when you signed up, but have now become invisible drains on your wealth. Gym memberships you haven't used in months, streaming services you forgot you subscribed to, premium app features you never actually access, magazine subscriptions that pile up unread, software licenses for programs you opened once. It's death by 1,000 small cuts, and the impact on your financial future is far more significant than you think. Here's what I want you to do right now, and I mean literally right now. Pull out your bank statement or open your banking app. Scroll through the recurring charges. How many of them are you actually using? How many are delivering real value to your life? I guarantee you're paying for at least 3 to 5 things you completely forgot existed. Maybe it's that streaming service you signed up for to watch one specific show and then never canceled. Maybe it's the meditation app you used enthusiastically for a week before abandoning it. Maybe it's the premium tier of some software when the free version would have been perfectly adequate. These companies are literally betting on your laziness, on your tendency to set it and forget it, and they're winning that bet every single month. The hidden truth about these subscriptions is that they represent something much deeper than just wasted money. They represent a mindset of passive consumption, the idea that you need constant entertainment, constant access, constant stimulation to be happy or productive. But what you actually need is to build wealth, to create financial security, to invest in a future where you're not dependent on a paycheck to survive. Every dollar flowing to a subscription service you barely use is a dollar that's not working for you in the stock market. It's not compounding. It's not earning dividends. It's not building the retirement account that will give you freedom when you're 70 years old and physically unable to work anymore. The transformation happens when you recognize that these companies have engineered their entire business model around human psychology. They make signing up incredibly easy, one click, automatic billing, no friction whatsoever. But canceling, that requires effort. You have to navigate through multiple screens, sometimes called customer service, jump through hoops. They're counting on you not bothering, and for millions of people, that strategy works perfectly. The journey toward financial freedom requires you to be more intentional, more aware, more willing to take the uncomfortable action of cutting these silent wealth destroyers out of your life. Write in the comments, "I'm taking control," if you're committed to auditing your subscriptions today, because what I'm about to share in this final section will tie everything together and show you exactly how these 5 wealth destroyers work together to keep you trapped in a cycle that benefits everyone except you. When you step back and look at these 5 wealth destroyers together, a pattern emerges that reveals the deeper truth about why so many people remain financially trapped despite working hard their entire lives. It's not random. It's not bad luck. It's a carefully orchestrated system designed to keep money flowing out of your pocket and into the pockets of corporations, banks, and businesses that profit from your financial decisions. The new car that loses value the moment you drive it away. The oversized house that chains you to decades of mortgage payments and interest. The daily habit of eating out that seems insignificant but compounds into hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost wealth. The constant consumption of clothing and accessories that fills your closet but empties your bank account. The subscriptions that silently drain your resources month after month. These aren't isolated mistakes. They're interconnected traps that reinforce each other and create a lifestyle that makes building wealth nearly impossible. Here's the revelation that changes everything. The system works because it convinces you that these purchases are normal, responsible, even necessary for a good life. You're told that buying a new car is what successful people do. You're told that your home is your biggest investment. You're told that you deserve to treat yourself, that life is short, that you should enjoy your money now. And all of that messaging serves one purpose: to keep you spending instead of saving, consuming instead of investing, working for your entire life instead of building the financial freedom that would let you stop. The transformation begins when you recognize that wealthy people play by completely different rules. They don't buy new cars. They let others absorb the depreciation. They don't stretch themselves to buy the biggest house possible. They buy what they need and invest the difference. They don't eat out constantly or fill their closets with trendy clothes or maintain subscriptions they don't use. They make different decisions, and those decisions compound over time into massive differences in wealth accumulation. This isn't about deprivation or living a miserable life. This is about understanding that every financial decision you make is either moving you toward freedom or keeping you trapped in dependence. The impact of changing your approach to these 5 areas cannot be overstated. Imagine redirecting all that money, the savings from buying a used car instead of new, the difference between a modest house and an oversized one, the thousands saved by cooking at home, the money not wasted on unnecessary clothes and forgotten subscriptions. Imagine all of that flowing into investments that actually grow, that earn dividends, that compound year after year. That's not a small difference. That's the difference between retiring comfortably in your 50s or 60s versus working until your body gives out because you have no other choice. Write in the comments, "I'm breaking the cycle," if you're ready to reject the programming and start making decisions that actually serve your future. Because understanding these principles is just the beginning of the journey toward real financial transformation and the life you actually want to live. So here's where we are. You now understand the 5 wealth destroyers that keep most people financially trapped their entire lives. You see the pattern, you recognize the system, and most importantly, you have the knowledge to make different choices starting right now. But knowledge without action is just entertainment, and I know you didn't watch this far just to be entertained. You're here because you're serious about changing your financial trajectory. If this content resonated with you, if you found real value in what we discussed today, I'd love for you to subscribe to the channel. We're building a community of people who think differently about money, who refuse to follow the crowd off the financial cliff, and who are committed to actually building wealth instead of just looking wealthy. This is where you'll find straightforward, no-nonsense insights that cut through the noise and get to what actually matters. And if you made it all the way to the end of this video, seriously, if you're still here right now, write in the comments, "I watched until the end." I read every single comment, and I want to know who's genuinely committed to this journey. It helps me understand what content serves you best and what topics we should explore deeper. If this video opened your eyes to something you hadn't fully considered before, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps more people discover this content, and honestly, it lets me know this conversation mattered to you. Now, there's another video right here that builds on everything we just discussed. It dives into the specific strategies for redirecting this money into investments that actually grow your wealth. Click on it and continue with me over there. Let's keep this momentum going.